And we're back here on Dodgers Dugout Live, the #1 Dodgers show and podcast on YouTube. And today we got a special guest. We got Angels beat writer from the Southern California News Group, the great Jeff Fletcher. He wrote the book on Shohei Ohtani. I'll drop the link down below. It's a must-read for Dodgers fans. They know Shohei even more. Jeff, how's it going, my man? You're in Boston, right?
Yeah, I'm in Boston. It's going pretty well. How you doing?
Doing good. So we want to bring you in and talk to you about the Shohei Ohtani pitching experience, because really that has been the biggest story for the Dodgers this season, along with trying to repeat and just dealing with the injuries that they have. There are the starters and relievers. And I think the first question is, what do you remember from just the rehab process for Shohei? Just because it's so unique, you don't send him on a minor league rehab start. He's facing hitters from Rancho Cucamonga over the weekend, and he's trying to work at his full arsenal. But what do you remember as far as just how complicated that process is and just getting him back on the mound with that?
Well, it actually turned out to be not very complicated for the Angels, thanks to COVID, because it was supposed to. So he had the first surgery in October of 2018, and he was supposed to start pitching again basically at the beginning of the 2020 season. And that never happened. So we didn't have to see, the Angels said what they were going to do. They actually changed the rule, which could be interesting for the Dodgers. They actually changed the rule for Otani that you could be on an active roster as a hitter and do a rehab assignment as a pitcher. So what they talked about doing was, Otani would be in the lineup as the DH for 3 days, and then the next day he would go and pitch a game at the Angels minor league affiliate at Inland Empire, and he would come back the next day and he would be in the lineup again at DH. Now, also that was before Billy Epler was the GM then, and at the time they really were not having Otani hit and pitch on the same days. So that was how they were accommodating that. If this would happen, now the Otani we know now who does both at the same time, it certainly wouldn't have worked as well. So I don't think the Dodgers really would want to do that. But the rule does exist. If they did choose to have him go pitch a real minor league game, they could do that without taking him off the major league roster.
Yeah, I was exploring that rule. I saw that. It's kind of wild to see him in those uniforms. I mean, I love anytime you see big leaguers in minor league uniforms. You saw Clayton Kershaw on the OKC Comets. Always cool sight to see. But for Shohei, he comes back there, pitches in 2020, just goes an inning and 2/3. Obviously didn't have a lot of success. It was a shortened season. What do you remember about the comeback and just how he felt early on?
Well, see, what happened there is I think because he didn't get to do the rehab that they planned for him, which was going to be, like we said, pitching in minor league games in April 2020, and then being in May 2020 of being ready to go full bore. That never happened. He just pitched some simulated games at the ballpark, in an empty ballpark, in May, June of 2020. And then he came back through in the little mini camp thing they had before the COVID season started. He threw 2 intra-squad games or something. So it's really not the kind of rehab you'd want from Tommy John surgery. And I don't know this for sure, but I suspect that probably had something to do with him getting hurt again. So then he pitched basically twice, and the second time it was very disturbing to see, because he came out there and just the velocity just fell off the map right in the middle of the game, and he left the mound. It was the second inning, and and then they said he had I forget what the injury was, a flexor tendon strain or something like that. And they said it was not related, not exactly, not related to his UCL, but still that was bad. And at that point, really, that's when people started to say, maybe he's just not a pitcher. Maybe let's just forget it. And so we never would have seen any of what happened in the next 3 years. So that was really the low point of this whole experience that we've come to see. In August of 2020, it was I don't think it's really ever going to happen. So.
Yeah, and that's kind of the big $1 million question. I mean, there's all these hot takes around, should Shohei Ohtani pitch? Should he not? Alex Rodriguez said over the weekend that he shouldn't pitch. It's too big of a risk to lose him as a hitter. Then David Ortiz said he should be a closer. But if you're the Dodgers, I mean, of course, 97% of that contract is deferred and the actual value is $463 million, but still you want him to pitch because of what you paid him and because of just that unicorn two-way status. I mean, just kind of putting your fan cap on. I mean, do you think that he should continue his career as a pitcher? Or do you think that, I mean, it's too risky for the Dodgers losing him as a hitter?
I think that what he did with the Angels in 21, 22, and 23, where he was a full-time pitcher and a full-time DH, was unlike anything that any of us on this planet have ever seen in baseball, and I would love to see that again. I think that when Ohtani just hits, he's this is going to sound blasphemous. He's not really unique. He's just, I mean, as a hitter, he's not even as good as Aaron Judge, and Aaron Judge plays the outfield. So he's just another really good hitter like we've had in baseball. Every year there's, 3 or 4 really good hitters that are like, this is a Hall of Fame caliber hitter. But like I said, we have 3 or 4 of them every year. There's 0 people that do what he did before, which is be a ace pitcher and a really good hitter. So I would love to, as a baseball fan, I would love to see that again. That's what is incredible, and I had to, every time it happened during a game, I would sort of write it this way to remind myself, the Angels starting pitcher just hit his second homer of the game. Just you have to remind yourself what you're watching, because we got a little bit used to it, and it's crazy. And maybe now that he hasn't been able to do it, people can go back and realize just how phenomenal that was, what he did for those 3 years.
Yeah, it's still honestly incomprehensible to think, and that's why it almost just feels like it's not real. So that's why I think if you're a Dodgers fan, you're part of this organization, you just want to see what it looks like, how it feels. And yeah, as you mentioned, look, Aaron Judge, this is a guy who put up Barry Bonds type level numbers. Shohei kind of like Mickey Mantle type numbers, right? I mean, like as far as just kind of where they're at as hitters, but at the second that Shohei starts pitching, you kind of have to end the conversation because this just does not happen. It's so not normal. But I mean, if I were to ask you, I mean, if do you have a sense of what he enjoys doing more? Like, would he rather go out there and hit 3 home runs in a game, or would he rather have like 12, 15 strikeouts? I mean, do you get that sense from him just being around him for so many years?
I'd actually always believed that he really loved pitching. It's funny because at the beginning of his career, when he first came to the U.S., people didn't think he was a hitter. They said, he's just a pitcher. He's not going to make it as a hitter. Come on, this is ridiculous. And, if he would have originally signed with the Dodgers out of high school, he never would have been a hitter, So that's an interesting thing, too. But as he went along through, I got the sense that he really liked hitting a lot more. And maybe it was just because he kept getting hurt as a pitcher. Maybe just because he could do it every day. But I believe now that the hitting is his preference. And if he had to choose one or the other, he would choose hitting. But I think his ultimate choice still is to do both, because he wants to be unique. He wants to do something that nobody else can do. And I think that that's what being a two-way player is for him.
Realistically, how many more years do you think he pursues this? I mean, 2-3 more years. Do you think that he goes? And what do you think of the long-term plan? Go to the outfield? I mean, what do you think about just kind of long-term prospects of this unprecedented journey he's on?
Well, I mean, I don't think anybody could have really thought that he was going to pitch the whole time that he was a major leaguer, that he was going to pitch and hit. I mean, the Babe Ruth quit after basically 2 years of being a two-way player because he said, this is too hard and you can't do it indefinitely. It's too hard on your body. And Ohtani's obviously got some better fitness regimen than Babe Ruth did. But, so that it's not going to happen forever. But the question is, so how many years is it going to happen? And I think I don't really think we can answer that question until we see how he is when he comes back. 2 Tommy John surgeries is not an automatic that you're just going to come back and pick up where you left off. So let's just see what happens. If he comes back and he's really good, then maybe he's got 3 or 4 more years of doing this. If he comes back and he struggles or he gets hurt again, maybe not. Maybe this is just this year. I mean, I don't know. I'd love for him to be able to do it for 3 or 4 more years. I think it's great. It's a great show, but it's just certainly not anything that we can assume is going to happen.
Do you think there's ever a world where you go from starter to it's really complicated to ever throw him in as a reliever just because he's an everyday player? It's just kind of an unrealistic situation.
That is the most ridiculous thing that I've heard people say about Ohtani. Same. And this has been for his whole career in the majors. People go, why not just make him the closer? Yeah. How are you going to do that? What if he's batting in the top of the 9th and then he's supposed to come pitch in the bottom of the 9th? When's he going to warm up? How's he going to do that? The one time he did it at the WBC, I think he did it in Japan a couple times. But at the WBC, he actually got kind of lucky because there was a replay review. He didn't bat in the I forget if it was the top or the bottom. I don't remember if they were the home team. But in the half inning before he had to come pitch, he didn't have to bat. And there was a replay review which stretched that inning like another 3 or 4 minutes and gave him like some more time to warm up down there. And so all the things kind of lined up perfectly for him to do that. But that's not going to happen all the time. And it's also just, the workload is erratic when you're a reliever. I mean, and there's times, say you're on the road in an extra inning game and the closer kind of warms up every inning because he's only going to come in and pitch if you take the lead in the top of the inning. He's not going to pitch otherwise. So he's like warming up all the time and he's sitting down there. And, when you're behind and then all of a sudden you take the lead and you want the close, like how is that going to work if he's batting? What's going to happen if the Dodgers are losing by 2 runs in the top of the 9th and Otani hits a 3-run homer in the top of the 9th?
There's so many different. I think it's some people like to throw it even to comprehend. I like to use my show as like Mythbusters sometimes, just debunking certain things, and there's 50 different reasons why it doesn't make sense. Yeah, if he's a normal starter and it's Game 7 of the World Series and he pitched early in that series, sure, bring him out in a WBC situation, Walker Buehler situation, and if you want to go that route, Madison Bumgarner situation, totally get it. But yeah, it doesn't make sense on a normal level. What do you remember though from Shohei Ohtani's start days that really just sticks out to you as far as just the process, the routine, and everything leading up to it?
Well, that's another thing. He has a really long kind of routine of getting ready to start. So, and he like throws the weighted balls against the fence and stuff like that. We actually kind of made a joke around the Angels when he was at the WBC. We thought, how funny is it going to be if they want him to be the closer in the championship of the WBC and they like stop the game for half an hour while he goes and throws weighted balls against the fence in the top of the 9th inning. So, but anyway, it's, he does a lot. He's got a whole routine. And I think that's, one of the reasons why it's so hard is just not just the physical skills you have to be a pitcher and a hitter, but the time you have to put in to do these things. So it's a big routine, and it works best as a starter for him.
Yes, absolutely. And the last question, Jeff, just expectation wise, knowing that this is just not a normal athlete, normal baseball player, do you expect him to come back and pitch like a top 10, top 15, top 20 pitcher coming back after his second major arm surgery?
I mean, I have no idea. I would not be surprised either way, just because when I wrote the book on Otani, I did some research on pitchers who had 2 Tommy John surgeries and what their careers looked like after. And basically, Nate Eovaldi is like the only one who's really been like a star caliber pitcher after his second Tommy John surgery. There've been some other guys who are just sort of beginning to go through it right now. Walker Buehler, Jacob deGrom. We'll see how good they get back to. But it's really hard to do. But Otani also does things that nobody else can do anyway, so I wouldn't put it past him. But I would just say that it's either way. If he comes back and is great, then I go, well, that's Otani. He does something nobody else can do. And if he comes back and he's not great, I would say, well, that's 2 Tommy John surgeries. That's pretty hard. So I wouldn't be surprised either way.
Absolutely. That's where I'm at too. I mean, it's the odds aren't in his favor to get back to the guy that he was and be this elite pitcher. But then at the same time, we took in what he already did with someone that we've never seen. So if anyone can do it, it's Shohei Ohtani. Be interesting to see when he comes back, how that impacts him at the plate and just kind of the fatigue factor and everything that's involved with that. I mean, but still, I mean, you have to kind of, if you're going to bet on someone, it has to be Shohei.
Let me throw one more thing out at you.
Absolutely.
I think what's going to be super interesting is, let's just say the pitching doesn't work and he's got all these years left on the contract. I think you got to play him at a position. You got to, if you realize that, all right, hey, he can't be a pitcher anymore. You just can't have your DH spot locked up into one guy for 7 more years, 8 more years, or whatever like that. And I think that Otani would be bored with that. That was kind of the thing when he was with the Angels. During 2020, when he stopped pitching, and we kind of were wondering, man, maybe he's never going to be a two-way player again. They actually had him working out and in right field and at first base, and he would like shag during BP. And Joe Madden talked about like how great he was at doing that and how he was a great athlete. And if you tell him, give him a glove and say, go play this position, he would figure it out and be very good at it. So I think that is going to be, and I hope we don't get to this point where we're talking about Otani not being a pitcher. But if it is, I think that's going to be a whole other fascinating conversation, because I think that he's too good of an athlete to just have him sit there without doing anything in between his at-bats. And I don't think he would like that. So I think that's maybe next year's podcast for
I'm here. Continue the conversation. I'm here for that. I mean, just the idea of Shohei making highlight catches in the outfield, or Freddie Freeman has a couple years on his contract after this season. So you look at the length of that contract. We're just in year 2 for Shohei. So by year 4 to 10, if he takes over first base or a corner outfield spot, that certainly would help the Dodgers, because we're even seeing right now, when you got Will Smith, right? When you have like a Mookie Betts come back off an injury, when that DH spot is locked up, it gives you no flexibility for guys coming back, giving guys a day off, spelling them a little bit. It is wild to see a DH like Shohei put up a 9+ WAR season at that position. We never thought that was possible. But yeah, that's really interesting to see, because I totally agree with you. It does feel like he loves his routines. He loves to kind of just be a part of the process of just helping the team in any way he can. I think he would understand that would be the best way to do it if he can't pitch.
If you have a guy locked into the DH spot, also, it's kind of like you don't have the DH spot. So for years, teams that were in the National League had trouble competing to sign these big stars, because it's like, well, what are we going to do with this guy when he's 35 or 36? And an American League team could say, hey, no problem. You could come over here and we've got a place for you. So, like if a Juan Soto type player comes up and the Dodgers want to get him, 2 years from now, and another team that's got its DH spot wide open says, hey, come here, and if you can only play the field for 3 more years and then DH for 6, then that's great. But if Otani is like locked into the DH for the next 7 years, that makes it difficult.
Absolutely, 100%. By the way, if you guys have not read Jeff Fletcher's book, definitely go pick it up. Showtime, the inside story of Shohei Ohtani, the greatest baseball season ever played. It is a must-read for Dodgers fans that want to know more about Shohei Ohtani. I'll drop the link down below in the description. But Jeff, I know you're busy out in Boston. Thank you so much. Join us here on a Dodgers podcast YouTube channel. We really appreciate it. And we'll check with you after a couple Ohtani starts just to get your thoughts. But I really appreciate joining us here on Dodgers Dugout Live.
Sure. Thanks for having me.